17th, this is the year 2025. At least hiyo maneno ya Valentine imeisha, imetutoka, sasa tunaweza endelea mbele. 48 days into the year, about 317 days remaining. Sasa tunaweza anza countdown ya Christmas. Lakini ni Morning Cafe, karibu sana. My name is Freddy Ndimuli.
My name is Anodida. Thank you so much for choosing us. Lakini bado, we are in the Valentine's mood. Hapa studio hata ukiangalia, don't listen to Fred, listen to me. Thank you so much. A lot is happening in the global stage as well as nationwide. So let's take a look at that.
All right, of course, the aftermath after the AUC elections. Wanasema kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, hatutamruka Ruto, ni ODM wanasema, lakini je, una uhakika? Swali tu.
The Standard, Ruto's blunders.
I think they've already identified who to blame.
Yeah.
It is the same thing on the front page of the People Daily. Ruto blunders at cost trial. Mbona wameamua barani Ruto? Mwone huruma tafadhali.
Tuache blame games. Big test for Ruto, Raila handshake.
All
That
right.
is the main story on Daily Nation.
Star wametoka huko wameenda kwingine mbali. How the dead are providing a livelihood for Kenyans.
Fresh, independent and different.
Yes, different, definitely different.
Yeah.
That's a Star. Matters business, Treasury drops bid to block CBK from Treasury bills, bonds, sale. Matters biashara. And on State of the Nation, these are gentlemen that will be looking at these headlines this morning. Joe Nyoto, Senator Murang'a County, Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, and Samuel Pogisio, former majority leader in the Kenyan Senate. Do stand by for that starting at 6:30. Let's go regional now, and we start off with the East African.
The tough task ahead. Now, the incoming chair of the AU Commission has his work cut out from fostering peace and security to promoting financial independence amid aid and credit cuts and rising debt.
So we have pictures of the three people who are gunning for the AU chairman's position. Kenya's Raila Odinga, of course the guy who eventually ended up the winner, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf of Djibouti, and Richard Randriamandrato is from Madagascar.
Yes.
He dropped out of the race, I think, after round 2.
Round 2, yes, round 2.
So that's a big discussion in the region. Of course, the AUC elections creating quite some content. Ata on X right now, isipokuwa ni Elon Musk ameharibu maneno. You can't see anything. Kuna hasira mingi sana na wengine wana celebrate.
Yeah.
Right.
Daily Monitor, pressure grows. The chorus's Dr. Kiza Besije was last evening reportedly taken to a medical facility in Bugolobi, Kampala, as calls for his release from detention gained ground from the church, politicians, family, medical professionals, and residents of Ntungamo district, among others. Kiza amekuwa on a hunger strike.
Yes.
And looks very sick.
Hey, you saw him when he was arraigned last week.
Yes.
And he's looking really emaciated.
Yeah.
And now everyone is talking about it. Why are you holding this guy? What has he really done?
Yes.
Yeah? So that's the biggest discussion in Uganda this morning. On the front page of the New Vision, still in Uganda, NRM digs into northern Uganda. Mapenduzi finds new home in ruling party. Maswala ya siasa imeanza kupata joto kule Uganda as they get ready for the elections in 2026. We're looking at the New Vision right now. Another story, Museveni quotes European investors. I'm looking for that story for Kiza Besige and I can't find it there.
Nothing.
I was thinking probably it is a big story. They have Kiplimo setting a new world record. This is a Ugandan, Kiplimo, and I think I've seen this story also on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Kiplimo is first to run half marathon in under 57 minutes. Uganda's long distance runner Jacob Kiplimo reclaimed his world record over the half marathon. And you know, kuna watu wengi, now that we are talking about border communities in the northern part of Kenya, even this ones, especially around Mount Elgon, the community is actually cut across both sides of the border. Let's move on to Tanzania.
What NHIF reforms intend to achieve, au pia wako na NHIF yao. Now, the government has tabled in Parliament a bill seeking to amend the National Health Insurance Fund Act in a move that seeks to align the operations of the agency with the planned universal health insurance. Now, the bill intends to amend the National Health Insurance Fund Act, CAP 395, in order to align it with the Universal Health Insurance Act number 13 of 2023. That is in Tanzania.
All right.
Government moves closer to finalizing real estate law. The Ministry of Lands in Tanzania Housing and Human Settlements Development has engaged various stakeholders in the ongoing process of reviewing Tanzania's real estate law. Story on page 2 of the Citizen.
Right, so those are the main discussions in Tanzania. Tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi mwishowe. Kuna mwendo wa lala salama bungeni. Kamati za bunge za ibana serikali joto la uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka huu latajwa kuongeza pressure ya wabunge kueleza vilio vya wananchi wao. Kama mjafanya kazi na umekuwa mbunge hiyo miaka 5, chickens are coming home to roost in Tanzania. Wanasema mwendo wa lala salama bungeni. Kumbuka uchaguzi mkuu kule Tanzania utakuwa mwezi wa Oktoba mwaka huu. Kuna harusi pale.
Aziz Ki na Hamisa is it Mobeto?
It's Mobeto. Ule alikuwa wa Diamond.
Yes. Amefunga ndoa. Finally.
Hatimaye nyota wa klabu ya soka ya Yanga Stefan Aziz na Hamisa Mobeto wamemaliza, atuelewe zaidi, ukurasa wa 15 wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi. Amepata jiko.
Ndio hivyo. Nini hatma ya Raila Odinga on the top strip of this newspaper?
Interesting. That they're talking about, how many times do we talk about a Ugandan? Okay, now Kizza Besigye, we talk about him, but not on our dailies.
Yeah.
Not on our dailies. But in Uganda and Tanzania, Raila Odinga is big.
Yeah. Hiyo ndo Mwananchi.
Hapa nasema tumeiva. Wameiva. Kuna picha pale chini kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi. Unaonyesha majeshi pale.
Yes.
Wanasema wameiva. Hao majeshi wa Tanzania. Askari jeshi la Tanzania, la wananchi la Tanzania na wenzao wa Marekani wakishiriki mazoezi ya pamoja kuonyesha ujuzi wao katika operesheni za kulinda amani. Ati wameiva pale. Haya ndio magazeti ya hapa nchini, na katika upande huu wa Afrika Mashariki tutarejelea kuangazia magazeti ya hapa nyumbani baadaye, but for now tuangalie hali ya anga. Hali ya anga tunaangazia wapi leo? Tunaanzia hapa ni Turkana. 26 degrees Celsius as we speak. Quite a hot day, promises to get as hot as 36 degrees Celsius later in the day in Turkana. Sunny throughout the day, no chance of rain there. 0.0 millimeters. Cloud cover very negligible, so it's quite hot in Turkana as expected. We go to the other extreme.
13 degrees in Nyeri, promises to be high at 26 degrees.
Yes.
Comfortable weather, precipitation huku 0, and it will be sunny throughout the
And
day.
this is actually quite hot for Nyeri, 26 degrees Celsius. That's warmer than usual. Yes. In Eldoret, 13 degrees Celsius also, just as we've seen in Nyeri. It feels like 12 actually. Sunny intervals for the better part of the morning and throughout the day, highs of 27 degrees, more or less the kind of weather we are seeing in Nyeri too. So Nyeri na Eldoret wako hapa kwa hapa. Tuangazie Mombasa.
27 degrees in Mombasa, feels like 30, highs of 31 degrees expected. It will be sunny throughout the day. Precipitation 0.3 millimeters, very minimal.
All right, but imagine 27 degrees now. That's the highest. That's the highest that Eldoret is going to get. Nyeri will not even get to 27. They'll get a highs of 36. Lakini Mombasa sai asubuhi.
Ini holiday weather kweli.
Well, yeah.
Past it.
Unavaa vest. Na bikini. Holiday weather. Alafu nakuja na tan. Finally, the city in the sun. In Nairobi, this is the weather. 17 degrees Celsius. Sunny day. Oh well. Leo utabidi uvae kofia. Yes. Highs of 28 degrees. This is warmer than we saw last week. We were just getting to about 27, and 27 is really hot. So today, kama hujazoea jua Nairobi leo, jichunge, kunywa maji. And it promises to be a very hot week. 28 degrees on Thursday, to even get to 29 degrees Celsius in Nairobi. So this, get ready for quite a warm week.
Yeah.
And this is where you start carrying your water bottle with you, because hii utaungua.
Yeah.
Watu wa Nairobi hawajazoea jua kama hii.
Na sunscreen, waambie.
Na hiyo sunscreen, you always insist on sunscreen.
Yes, because it's important.
Beauty by Anne.
Period. That's what's up.
All right, that's the weather situation. Let's take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi. We had already spotted some problem around Pangani interchange. I don't know if they resolved it yet. Oh yes, because it had stretched as far back as Mathari Mental Hospital, a few minutes to 6, but now it's changed. Traffic ni ile ya kawaida pale interchange pale. We can see nothing out of the ordinary. Let's go to the eastern part of the city and we take a look at Kangundo Road, which is quite busy. You can see sections around Njiru, busy on both sides of the road. Once you get to around Kayole there, it's busy on both sides of the road because of the matatus picking and dropping passengers. Before you get to that junction to Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital, it's also busy. And once you get closer to Outer Ring Road, it gets even busier. Outer Ring Road itself, not so bad today. Pipeline matatu hazijaamka bado. Once you get to Jogoo Road, pia Makadara pale, nothing much today, not so much to worry about. City Stadium roundabout, it's getting busy, building up, but you can see Gikomba Market, Mudhurwa, Machakos Bus Station, Marikiti, it's already busy. Both sides of the road on Haile Selassie Avenue around Marikiti are busy. Yes, and Machakos pale, sijui wana travel wanaenda wapi. Other areas, Mombasa Road looking good, pale Nyayo kwa kawaida. Langata Road, not bad. Ngong Road too, not bad. And we have Wayakiwe. It's green all the way into town. Probably we see at 1:30 if something will have changed. Right now it's about 12 minutes past 6.
Let's take a look at the quote of the day. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, but from what you do consistently. Show up every day, give your best, and trust that the process will lead to progress.
All right. Hatutamruka Ruto, ODM wanasema, ni habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Baada ya Odinga kushinda uchaguzi wa AUC, viongozi wa ODM wasema hawatatengana na rais kisiasa. Pengine ni fair walikuwa wanaogopa. Unajua unaweza ongea vibaya waambiwe hiyo fair tulipe. Na ile bill kama iko imelipwa naambiwe jitetee. Rudi home. Zungumzia mustakabali wa siasa, wachanganuzi wasema Odinga ana maamuzi matatu. La kwanza, kuendelea kumuunga mkono Ruto, ama avunje mwafaka wa ushirikiano baina yake na rais kwa kuunga mwaniaji mwingine, au la tatu, awanie urais kwa mara ya 6 katika uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka 2027. Mambo ni matatu. Mambo ni matatu sasa. Wanamnukuu pale Junet Mohamed ambaye ni kiongozi wa wachache. Ni wachache ama ni wengi sasa? Wengi. Yeye anasema ni kiongozi wa wengi bungeni, lakini ni kiongozi wa wachache kulingana na spika. Anakiliwa akisema, ningependa kumshukuru Rais Ruto kutokana na msaada wake kwa Raila katika uchaguzi wa AUC. Hatuwezi kumlaumu yeyote kwa kupoteza kiti hicho. Huyo ni Junet Mohamed. Lakini sasa anampongeza Ruto, lakini anataka kuwa kiongozi wa wengi. Atafanya nini? Kwingineko pale chini, vidokezo zaidi, masuala ya Marekani. Trump aipa Israel mabomu. Hatua hiyo inaashiria kurejea kwa mapigano baada ya mwafaka wa Hamas kuyumba. Kwingineko, watu 1800 waomba kazi ya IEBC. Mlikuwa mnasema hiyo kazi ya IEBC watu waipendi. Wanatafuta tu watu 6 ama 7, lakini watu 1800 wanataka hiyo kazi. Jopo la kuteua makamishna laanza leo kuchambua stakabadhi za watu 1848. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 3. Na Papa akosa kuongoza sala maarufu. Hata hivyo, matabibu wasema anazidi kupata nafuu ya tatizo la mfumo wa kupumua. Ni Papa Mtakatifu Francis. Pale juu, msitengane. Ruto Raila waambiwa naibu wa rais awarai viongozi hao washirikiane zaidi bila kujali kura ya AUC. Je, itafanyika hivyo?
Tutajua.
Na kwenye spoti, Liverpool hawashikiki kileleni EPL. Wanyanyasa Wolves na kufungua tena mwanya wa alama 7 mbele ya Arsenal. Gazeti la Taifa Leo hii leo.
Tuangazie gazeti la Standard. Ruto's blunders. The aftermath is President Ruto's diplomatic missteps on regional conflicts and global alliances may have cost Raila Odinga the AUC chairmanship. Now, analysts cite his stance on the DRC crisis, Israel-Gaza war, and failure to mobilize key African blocs as key setbacks. Raila conceded defeat, vowing to continue serving Africa in other capacities. Raila alisema tuache blame games yeye ako sawa. And you know, there's a discourse if he really stepped down ama kama alishindwa.
Hakuna ku step down. You see, you're automatically eliminated after certain number of rounds.
Yeah.
Yes. If you're not the winner or the lead, like the candidate from Madagascar was automatically eliminated after the second round because you came third twice. So a step down, hakuna opportunity ya kustep. Okay, lakini wacha niache kusema. Kuna machungu bado. Watu watakasirikia.
You'll be alone. You'll be alone in that. Another story there is inside the DStv attack, 1 year in the making. Oh, this is an exclusive story by this newspaper found on page 2 and 3 of this newspaper. National news there, we have end of an era for Baringo Senator, that is William Cheptumo. Now, the senator was serving his 4th term in Parliament, and his passing marks the end of a career defined by unwavering dedication to devolution, security, reforms, and legal justice. He died aged 57. Now, the Senate of Kenya has lost a leader who firmly believed in devolution and used every opportunity to advance its cause and the welfare of Kenyans. That is Amason Kingi, Senate Speaker. All right. Other stories there on the top strip of this newspaper: house scraping of a medical cover hurts students. Story on page 10. CEOs reveal cure for ailing economy. Page 19 of the business page. And M23 sees key city in eastern DRC. Wanasema kwanza hii vita huko might have cost Raila the AU seat. And in sports, senior golfers defy time on their fairways. That's the Standard.
All right. We'll move on now to the People Daily. They talk about Ruto blunders that cost Raila. You see, it's more or less what the Standard is talking about. Two-word headline on the Standard: Ruto's blunders. On the People Daily, Ruto blunders that cost Raila. President's position on DRC conflict. Sorry, excuse me. President's position on DRC conflict. Inexperienced diplomats and religion blamed for Azimio leaders' loss of top continental job. The story is on page 4. And I remember when you were talking about the DRC crisis, and many people were saying, okay, it may not really affect. But you see, once your leader, your president, has made some declarations, and President William Ruto was in a very awkward position because, one, he's the EAC chairperson. Yeah. Secondly, he is very close to some of the leaders in this region, more than others. Yeah. So just like any human being. So could it have affected the voting there? So the DRC conflict, inexperienced diplomats and religion blamed for Azimio leaders' loss of top continental job. So this paper basically just breaks down what could have led to that loss. Truly, where did we get it wrong? Yeah. More troubles for IT2 because now EACC is looking to freeze more of his assets, amounting to about 1.9 billion shillings worth. Pale chini Mbadi says Kenya Kwanza borrowed 560 million shillings every day. Every day. I need a burudi of uji. Every day. 560 million shillings. You do the math. 560 million. That's a People Daily today.
Daily Nation, big test for Ruto Raila handshake. 2027, Mr. Odinga's failure to clinch the AU seat could significantly impact President Ruto's chances of securing a second term in 2027. Okay. We see a photo there of President William Ruto with Mr. Raila Odinga at State House, Nairobi, on August 27, 2024, when he was officially unveiled as Kenya's candidate for the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Alisema hiyo kiti alitaka mwenyewe. So the blame games should stop.
But you see, two papers already blaming Ruto. The Star and the People Daily. They say Ruto's blunders. Alisema ni Ruto.
Alisema ni Ruto.
Lakini Raila amesema hapana, hii ilikuwa ni mimi.
Ni mimi, nilijitakia. Laws paves the way for Odinga's grand return to the helm of ODM party. And they say former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's bid for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission was widely seen as a game changer in Kenyan politics, but the loss that inevitably draws him back to the local scene presents the first major test for the opposition leaders choose with President Ruto. Wataungana kweli? Hiyo ndo swali kuu. Other top stories there: Cheptumo's final bow. Senator William Kipkorir Cheptumo, who died on Saturday, will be remembered for ending the Moi hegemony in Baringo County. Treasury releases counties' list of shame. Only 9 counties spent at least 30% of their total expenditure on development projects in 2023-2024 financial year, with the rest breaching the law on the threshold set for growth spending. Now, Treasury data shows Marsabit topped the list by allocating 38.6% of its total expenditures towards development. Okay. Narok spent 34%, Homa Bay 33.3%, Mandera 33.3%, Siaya 32.6%, Trans Nzoia 31%, Kitui 30.8%, and Kilifi 30.6%. List of shame: Nairobi tuko hapo. Kisii, Mombasa, Kisumu, Taita Taveta, Kiambu, Kakamega, Vihiga, Nyamira, and Nandi hawa wako kwa list of shame. Government borrowed 68.7 billion shillings in 4 months, and this translates to 572 million Kenyan shillings every day in 18 new loans to finance various projects across the country. That is according to Treasury CS John Mbadi. That's the Daily Nation.
All right. Tuangazie gazeti la The Star. And do we have a physical copy? Yes, we do. It goes on a very different tangent. It talks about how the dead are providing a livelihood for Kenyans. This is a special story on pages 4 and 5 of this paper. And they talk about families splashing millions of shillings on burials. Watu wanatumia pesa mingi sana. Baada na pengine hata wakati jamaa alikuwa hai hakuwa anasaidia sana, lakini once you die. So leaving off the dead, death announcements alone earn one stakeholder 3 million shillings a day. There's a company that makes 3 million bob a day from, and they break down the average cost of burial between 50,000 and 300,000 shillings. The upper average cost of funeral is upwards of 2.5 million shillings. People are spending that much. Average monthly income of a coffin seller is 200,000. Some coffins are going for as far as 100,000 shillings or even higher, 150. A hearse between Nairobi and Western Kenya. Why Western Kenya? 100,000 shillings. Flowers. They even talk about how many people are dying from what? Heart disease, cirrhosis of the liver, HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, hepatitis, injuries, and maternal, perinatal, and nutritional conditions. So businesses in funeral industry flourishing as families splash millions. So kama ulikuwa unatafuta kazi, usiseme kazi haziko. That's the front. People are splashing millions on this. And people are actually earning a living from it. That's a big story on the front page of the Star. I don't know why they chose to go with that on a Monday. But yes, this paper is fresh, independent, and different.
Odinga alisema we should move on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
All right. Well, as far as moving on, even the Star pale juu haja move on kabisa. Anasema rough road for Ruto after Raila's defeat in AUC chairperson's polls. Iko pale, stories on page 2. Matters re-election strategy for Ruto kutaendaje. Hapa chini, there's an interesting story about how a baker hit by sight loss and COVID survived. The story is also on page 2. And that story about the Iebc and the number of people who are interested in working for the Electoral Commission. That's over 1,800 people. 1,800 Kenyans apply for Iebc chair. They all want to be chairpersons or members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Watu wameona hapo kuna pesa. All right. So that's the start.
Narrowing down to the number that they need.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, they said by April we should be having the Iebc Commission in place.
Yeah.
So let's hope. That's about 2 months from now. Hii mwaka inaenda kweli kweli. That's a start.
Business Daily: Treasury drops bid to block CBK from Treasury bills and Treasury bond sale. Now the Treasury has shelved its plan to take away the responsibility of issuing government securities from the Central Bank of Kenya after the latter lobbied to retain the role, which earns it up to 3 billion shillings in commissions a year. The draft medium-term debt management strategy document that was published by the Treasury last month had proposed to give the securities issuing role to the Public Debt Management Office, saying that this was part of reforms aimed at reducing the government's borrowing cost. Lakini tumeona mahali we are borrowing 572 million Kenyan shillings daily. How investment scams forced Kenya to regulate cryptos. Kenya is among the countries with fraud factories where young women are recruited to scam unsuspecting victims by engaging in what is known as pig butchering, a recent study by the International Justice Mission, an NGO, revealed.
All right. Interesting.
On the ticker, VAT collections drop, first time since the COVID-19 pandemic. Australia beats Germany, Saudi Arabia in remittances. That is the Business Daily. Okay.
Away from matters business, remember, these are the gentlemen who will be in studio this morning for State of the Nation discussing these big headlines. Of course, the aftermath of the AUC chairman's elections loss for Raila Odinga being one of our biggest discussions. Samuel Pogisio, who served as majority leader in the Senate in the 12th Parliament, will be in studio alongside Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, and Joe Nyoto, Senator Moranga County. Do stand by for that. And as we come to the end of our news review, let's take a look at the cartoons. Then we'll tell you what else we have in store for you today. So this is a cartoon on the Standard today, and it draws, we have two frames here. They say out goes, in comes. They're talking about NHIF, the transition to SHIF. And the commentator is asking, spot the difference, because it is the same picture, same problems, same patient, same ailing, graphed both in NHIF and in the new SHIF. Meanwhile, mgonjwa hapo anaona tu madumbwe, mazingaumbwe. Spot the difference. According to the cartoon on the Standard, there's none. The Daily Nation.
We see a photo here of a classroom. Lakini kule juu kuna ndege. How did we lose AUC? That is what the legislators are talking about. Yes. How did we lose the seat? Lakini huku chini, release capitation funds.
Yes. Hakuna pesa capitation. Kuna mtu hapa amelala njaa. Yeah. These are the problems down here. But our politicians now, and you'll see for the next few weeks, watakuwa kule juu just flying, because nowadays choppers are the choice, ride of choice. Just discussing what was wrong. Yeah. Why did we lose AU, the AUC chairman's post? So yes, Kenyans, jitarisheni, mutasikiza hii maneno for the next. Tayari walikuwa shaanza kusema, it's Uhuru Kenyatta who went to Addis Ababa at night and was talking to people at night. You wonder, okay, really? That's a cartoon on the Daily Nation. Okay. People Daily, same story. So we have a caricature of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who's now back from Addis Ababa after unfortunately losing the AUC election. Now he has a wheel which he can spin. Now just trying to find out what next for Raila Odinga. And the choices are, kuna wale walikuwa wamesema mambo ni matatu. Hapa kuna mingi, like ask AU for mkate nusu. That is one of his choices. According to this cartoonist, there's 2027 politics. He may decide to go to Bondo. He may decide to rebrand ODM. He may decide to continue working with Ruto, which some people have indicated he will. He may quit politics as well. He may also strike. And then he may decide to go for talks. So which way Raila Odinga, as he spins that wheel.
Finally, a cartoon of the three candidates, the AU. We see also President William Ruto there scratching his head. Lakini this is a clear depiction of what took center stage in Addis Ababa. We see hapa mwisho ni Richard Randiamandrato.
Jina no umeshika vizuri.
Kabisa.
Hebu rudia tena.
Richard Randiamandrato.
Uko sure utajuma ulimi?
Koma kabisa.
Randiamandrato.
We can see Mohamed Ali Yusuf hapo mbele on a tight race with Raila Odinga hapa, where of course alishinda finally, that is Mahmoud, and tunaona pale president
ameshanga
ana scratch kichwa bado.
So yes, discussions around what happened at the AUC, big talking point today, because kuna ule mtu alipredict akasema ngoja by Monday everything changes. Okay, Monday imefika.
Yeah.
This is 17th of February, so tumeachana mambo ya Valentine's, tumeachana mambo ya AUC. The aftermath of the election loss in the AUC. That's a big discussion.
Moment of truth.
Yes. So that will form a big chunk of our discussion after the break with the gentleman I just introduced to you. Do stand by for that. Later on, of course, Monday Blitz coming up at 8. Maswala ya sporty, does Arsenal still have a chance of closing the gap with Liverpool? That at 8, and later?
Later on, we'll be hosting Watu wa Marketing Africa to talk about leveraging media and marketing to drive economic growth. This is ahead of the Nairobi Marketers Night on the 28th of this month.
Right. So do stand by for that and a lot more.
Interact with us on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, TV47 News KE on X. My handle is at @Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle on X is at Fred Ndimuli.
Stay with us.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Aurora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, Grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe right here on TV 47 with me, Fred Ndimuli. Before we embark on talking about the biggest headlines today, of course, the AUC and the loss of Raila Odinga in that election was definitely big news. But I'd like us to start with the news of transition following the death of Senator William Cheptumo. And we do have a story giving us an update on the same.
The family of Baringo Senator William Cheptumo Sunday afternoon confirmed the passing on of the 57-year-old politician at the Nairobi hospital. According to a family member, he was released from the hospital last week, but his condition worsened and he was readmitted before his ultimate death. Former Cooperatives and MSMEs Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelogui led a delegation of leaders from Baringo County, including Woman Representative Jematia Sergon, Baringo North MP Joseph Makilap, and former CS Helen Sambili in mourning the senator at his current home Sunday evening. Speaking on behalf of family members, Baringo North Member of Parliament Joseph Makilap announced that due to the absence of some family members, full details will be released Monday morning to allow for family consultations.
That allowed them to even have a rest as they wait for the other family members. We are here with the brother of the late Cheptumo, the brother-in-law, the brother of the late Cheptumo, the brother of the late Cheptumo is here, and the entire family members.
President William Ruto mourned Cheptumo as a progressive leader dedicated to public service, praising his tireless efforts to transform Baringo County. President Ruto further described Cheptumo as a vocal, hardworking and a tireless champion for the transformation of Baringo, adding that the senator's family, friends and constituents remain in his thoughts and prayers. Senate Speaker Amason Kingi also paid tribute, noting that the Senate of Kenya has lost a leader who firmly believed in devolution and used every opportunity to advance its cause and the welfare of Kenyans. Cheptumo was first elected as Member of Parliament for Baringo North in 2007 and served 3 terms. He later became Baringo Senator in 2022 on a United Democratic Alliance ticket. In addition, Cheptumo chaired the Senate National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations Committee and was Assistant Minister of Justice, National Cohesion and Constitutional Affairs. He has left behind a widow and 3 adult children who work as advocates. As preparations for his funeral get underway, the body was transferred to Lee Funeral Home in Nairobi. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yes, news of transition there following the death of Senator William Chepkorir Cheptumo this past weekend. I'm in studio with Makali Mulu MP Kitui Central and Samuel Pogisio, who was served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, also as ICT Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki II administration. I want to give you gentlemen an opportunity to say a word or two about this. We're starting with you, Bwana Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much for hosting us. I think the death of Senator Cheptumo was a big shocker to most of us, and more so those of us who have served with him. I did serve with Senator Cheptumo in the 11th Parliament and 12th Parliament. But as you can see, I found him in Parliament. He'd done already a term by the time I joined the Parliament. And this gentleman was a very soft-spoken gentleman, very focused on his work. And one of the things he always championed, and which he did as he continued to champion, is the issue of insecurity in Baringo. I remember one time he was serving the JILAC committee, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. And despite the fact that he was serving the JILAC, he would raise a lot of issues related to insecurity in Baringo, and more so insecurity in the country. So the country has lost a great leader, somebody who has served his people very faithfully. You know, when this happens, we can't say more. We can only wish the family well. So I want to take this opportunity to condole with the family and convey my sincere condolences to the people of Baringo County for the loss of their great leader, and wish them well now that they are mourning. We'll be praying for them during this mourning period. And the family, my prayer is that God will strengthen and comfort them.
Thank you. Thank you, Bwana Mulu. And now to Samuel Pogisio. I know Baringo North is very close to Kacheliba as well. And you must have served with Bwana Cheptumo for a while once you were in Parliament.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you for the opportunity to send my condolences and the condolences of the people of West Pokot to the family, friends, and residents of Baringo, and to the nation. This is a national leader, actually. He has held positions, ministerial positions, and even in the current situations when you are a chairman of a committee, it's actually a very senior position. Cheptumo is a senior leader. Even before going to politics, he was always active in terms of seeking peace between his people of Baringo North and Baringo generally, and the people around him, whom they shared a border with. Usually the people of, the other issues with the people around him, people of Tiati and so on. But we've worked together very well. He's a very amiable, he was a very amiable and was very amiable family man. Even when we dealt with issues of insecurity, he was what you call a voice of reason in terms of dealing with those. And we need to just pray for the family, wish them for God to give them the strength, and of course to wish the people of Baringo at this moment God's guidance as they mourn their senator. Okay. And so may he rest in peace.
All right. Thank you, Bwana Pogisio, for that. Yes, we'll continue updating you on news regarding this transition following the death of Senator William Chepkorir Cheptumo, Senator Baringo County. He has previously represented Baringo North constituency in that same county. And our condolences too to the family and the people of Baringo County. Let's now move on to the big discussion, gentlemen. And many people predicted a lot of things. Finally, AUC. And those are the big headlines today. Big test for Ruto, Raila handshake. Ruto's blunder. That's the standard. Also, the people daily talking about Ruto's blunders. Let's now major on the AUC discussions. We also do have a story right here on TV47 talking about the ripple effect of BAMBA's Addis Ababa loss. Let's have that story just to set the stage for this discussion. BAMBA's Addis ripple effect. All right, even as we try and line up that story for you, this is definitely the biggest discussion. We cannot escape it. The fact that we have this result from the AUC, many people had predicted a lot of things, many people expected a lot of things. Right now, if you look at the front pages today, they talk about Mambo ni Matatu, what will Raila Odinga do? The cartoons are talking about the same, what will Raila Odinga do going forward? Are you shocked? Are you shocked by this? But I'm told we do have the story. Allow us to just play that story to set the stage for this.
Based on my consultations and careful observations, I submit the following 8 proposals to accelerate and complete the Africa Union reform process for your keen consideration. Number 1, to maintain the momentum of reforms, enhance oversight, and entrench collective ownership, the Africa Union reform process requires a consistent strategic guidance at the highest level. I propose the formation of a 5-member ad hoc committee of heads of state and government.
In his conceding message, former Prime Minister downplayed criticism towards President William Ruto over his loss of African Union chairmanship bid to Djibouti's Mohamed Ali Yusuf. Odinga further stating his eyes are now focused at returning back home, adding there is a lot to be done. Pundits opine this signals political alignments and realignments in the country in the near future.
There will be another time, and there are so many other things that are available for us to do.
And it is going to change against William Ruto. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza. That is how Kenya changes. Yes, it is. It's so quick. It's like this. And I think that's what makes us happy. That's why sometimes we look hell.
Raila's flopped run came at a time of significant political atmosphere in Kenya. President Ruto's support for Raila once underscored a broader complex internal political landscape.
There will be a lot of blame games that are going to be played. Oh, Ruto just wanted to humiliate Baba. It was not genuine in saying that he was supporting him and so on and so forth.
The former Premier's stab at the AUC chairmanship back home is already eliciting mixed reactions, but also brewing the unprecedented political turbulence. Experts opine the turn of events in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, will greatly influence the country's 2027 politics.
Tutaungana pamoja na watu wa ODM, tutaungana pamoja na watu wa Kalonzo Musyoka kuhakikisha ya kwamba William Samoei Arap Ruto 2027 hautakuwa rais wa Jamhuri la Kenya. Tutakung'atua katika hayo mamlaka.
Already Raila is receiving congratulatory messages even from unlikely figures such as the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, taking to his social media platforms where he welcomed Raila back home while subtly taking a swipe at his now political nemesis President Ruto with part of his statement reading. And I quote, "Indeed, we Kenyans, your beloved brothers and sisters, have unfinished business with you as the coveted son, as we unshackle our country from recklessness." End of quote. Though many had termed the race as Ruto's 2027 card, the president says he regrets that Africa lost a good candidate in Raila Odinga. President Ruto added, and I quote, "This election was not about individuals or nations. It was about Africa's future." End of quote. The president says that the future remains bright and together Kenya will continue working for united, prosperous and influential Africa on the global stage. Former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka's political allies have urged Odinga to support the Wiper Party leader's presidential bid in 2027 polls.
I just want to thank our president, I want to thank our former prime minister and those who supported our candidate. And even if we do not succeed, I think we came out strongly.
So we are asking our brothers also from the Nyanza region to also be faithful to us and support us, because His Excellency Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka anaomba kiti ya rais yake.
Tunamwalika Raila Amolo Odinga arudi katika taifa letu la Kenya, akuje tushikane mkono tuweze kukung'atua katika mamlaka.
Already perceived as a kingmaker in the upcoming polls, Odinga's trace seems full already, even before his return to the country. Some at the top of the list could include who are majority, minority in parliament. On February 12, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula ruled that Kenya Kwanza is the majority in parliament, after a High Court on February 7 ruled faulting Wetangula for declaring Kenya Kwanza the majority side. But before Odinga jets back to the country, the blame over his loss continues.
And I place the blame squarely on Raila, on Mheshimiwa William Samoei Arap Ruto, who was a chief campaigner. Alikuwa na nia yake nyingine pengine kwamba akimsukuma Raila basi atakuwa na easier time.
Tumeona ukiwa mfisadi, ukiwa muongo, na kama umeweza kudanganya wachungaji, umeweza kudanganya Wakenya, umeenda ukadanganya Raila Amolo Odinga ya kwamba atapata kiti ya AU ambayo hakuipata.
Djibouti's Foreign Affairs Minister Mohamud Ali Yusuf snatched victory for the AUC chairperson seat in the 7th round, garnering 33 votes after Odinga was dropped in the 6th round. Mwege William, TV 47.
Yes, and Raila Odinga was definitely right when he gave that speech after his loss there, saying that there will be a lot of blame. We've had Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper Party leader, blaming President William Ruto. It is the same thing we're seeing on the front pages today. On the front page of People Daily, Ruto blunders that cost Raila Odinga, already lumping all the blame on President William Ruto. On the Standard as well, Ruto's blunders. Bwana Makali Mulu. Before we even talk about the aftermath and what will happen later, everyone is looking for who to blame. And most of them appear to have picked on President William Ruto, that he is to blame for Raila Odinga's loss. Do you agree with these headlines?
I totally agree. You know, from the word go, I think when after the handshake between Ruto and Honorable Raila, it was indicated that then Honorable Raila will be going for the UFC chairmanship. And from the word go, Kenyans were saying that Raila will not win. And then you remember the Gen Zs came out very strongly, went to the social media, and they were blasting Honorable Raila for many, many things which happened in the country. And then from there, the campaign started. And what I've been asking myself is because towards the last 2 weeks, to me it was evident that Raila will lose this seat. So for me, it was just a confirmation of what I expected. Why am I saying that? There was some external factors and internal factors which were working against Raila's winning the position. The internal factors were that this issue, from the word go, it was a diplomatic issue. And Senator Pogisio here has been in this arena for a long time. Issues diplomacy, you cannot handle them the same way you handle issues of politics. So it means when you go to the diplomatic circles, there are things you don't do, so there are don'ts and do's. But one thing I saw from the word go is that we picked this matter of diplomacy and played it the way we play our politics. You know, in diplomacy, somebody will say no to you, but they will not tell you no. They will just take you, give you statements which leave you hanging. It's very difficult to see somebody in diplomacy telling you, no, these are a very firm no, like it is in the Bible. No. In diplomacy, people are, so even when people are telling you, they know very well internally that they will not support you, they will talk to you in a way that to give you hope. And I think that's what got it wrong from the word go. That even the way we went out there to look for the votes, you know, going out to every country, going in big delegations. You remember when they went even for the interview in Addis, these other two gentlemen came just alone, and even not be with one security person. Our Honorable Raila went with a delegation, including MCRs from Nairobi who were airlifted to Addis Ababa. So everybody who is smart would start asking, the kind of things we are seeing and the diplomacy we are used to, could we be transferring a problem to Addis by having Raila as a candidate? The other thing which happened is, Raila was being championed by President Ruto. President Ruto was the chief campaigner. But I think President Ruto has been having serious issues in his country. Issues of abduction, issues of education which isn't working, issues of human rights abuse, issues of insecurity. So anybody out there would wonder, now, is this the kind of image you want to take to this big office in Addis? These are another internal issues, which to me I think we didn't manage them well.
Okay.
Come to the external issues. Look at the issue of DRC. Towards last week. And you know, this issue of DRC, as my party leader was saying, I think it was the main issue which actually did all this thing, and it went highwire. Because I think DRC are just in part of the East Africa community. So the question is, if you can't even manage your own neighbors, people are already in the same block as the chair, because he is the chair, then you are telling us to give you a position, and you are the chief campaigner, you have to give us a position in the AU to manage Africa. It's like you can't manage your home and you want to manage your neighbors' homes. It becomes very difficult. Right. And then look at the issue of the SANDC issue. You know, when SANDC wrote that they will be supporting the Mozambique candidate, I think our PS made some remarks. And that's why I'll tell you the issue of diplomacy. I've never been a diplomat. But from where I sit as a layman, if we started calling you today, you are a diplomat, it will be saying you are a calm guy, you are not controversial, you are a guy who would, in most cases, when you are saying no, people will never realize you are saying no, because you tell people some nice things, but you are actually saying no. And look at how we did it. Even going to Addis for the final day, you have 100 MPs going to Addis. To do what? MPs are not voters. And then they go there and start celebrating even before the vote is cast. So you see, these are some of the things which, to me, from where I sat, I said, these are diplomatic exercises. Look at the way, the humility from the guy who won. He comes with this president, who is a voter. He comes with the 2 bodyguards, and he comes with the wife. 4 people. As we have a delegation of about 200 people. So the president must have asked them, this show of, wastage, could we be transferring this also to Addis?
Right.
And these are the things which can make you the final decision change, even when you are confused with it. Then the third issue was, which was underlying and it was never said. You know, when you look at Kenya, Kenya is like the big brother in the eastern region. And then South Africa, there is big brother in the southern. So when you are big brother, there's a sibling rivalry. You know, your brothers will feel this guy is becoming so domineering. So anytime you continue adding more power to him, he becomes imposing his ideas on us and all those other fears. So don't be surprised, even our neighbors. Although when I look at the list, I don't know how genuine it was.
It cannot be genuine because it is secret ballot.
That's what I'm saying. Don't be surprised that even some of our neighbors and brothers might have not voted for our candidate. Then the fear of the person called Raila. You know, Honorable Raila is known in this country and internationally as a very firm believer of what he believes in, he goes for it. Some people might have been wondering, when this guy is a chair, AUC, are we able to manage him? Or might he come and then the president will have no say because he's so powerful that when he sits there, nobody would want to have a chairman who is so powerful than the president.
All right.
So to me, these are some of the issues. And from the word goes, like I felt, you will have a very slim chance of winning. And it was confirmed when the vote was done.
So the blame game continues, and I'll be giving Bwana Epogisha an opportunity to give us his assessment of this blame game that we are now centered on. But that after the break, you're watching Morning Cafe. We continue discussing the AUC elections that happened on Saturday.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli, and I'm looking at the trends on X, and AUC elections is among the top trends on X. People are still talking about the loss of that election by Raila Odinga on Saturday. I want now to give this opportunity to Samuel Pogisio, who served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament and also as ICT Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki II administration. On this issue of blame game, because the dailies appear to have singled out President William Ruto as a person who may have done or had missteps that led to this loss. Is this blame game valid?
Well, if you are the chief campaigner, I mean, at the end of every campaign, somebody has to take the blame. And in this case, there are two dynamics that make this campaign very difficult. First of all, the campaigner is a president, and the voters are presidents or heads of states and country and governments, and that makes it difficult. Even campaigning among them, it's very difficult. And I remember so that you can blame anybody, but really the results of election at the AU level or UN level, it's a very complicated thing. And Kenyans seem not to have learned from the previous attempts that they've had. We've never learned. Look at what we tried. We tried WTO. We never succeeded. We've tried the same seat, AUC chair under Amina. Went 7 rounds and again we lost, that kind of thing. So there is something that we do not know how to do. And instead of saying, by the way, we are to blame, because we do not know how to place our people in positions. And I've said that before. So I would say everybody in this game can be blamed. Even the teams that we put together to campaign for Raila. Surely, how much did they do? How much money did we spend? By the way, how much money did we spend? Was it the money? Was it the money that we went with, or is it that we were serious about campaigning for Raila? So you can blame a lot of people. I've seen one commentary, which of course is very sensitive, because I saw a comment that says that maybe it's good for Raila, the Kenyans saying, to come back home because literally, they were beginning to wish for that character, that Raila, who was a human rights advocate, that Raila who would defend the weak and the poor and the oppressed. And that's what I mean. Remember, Kenyans were celebrating yesterday to welcome him back. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. But President Ruto, it was said that probably he stood to be the biggest beneficiary of Raila winning the AUC. Yet we're talking about his personal blunders, even in terms of diplomacy. Well, do you really think he failed that badly as president in this?
I tell you, being a new president and a new kid on the block, literally. And by the way, we must accept that there are certain diplomatic gaffes that happened. There are two things that you need to do. I've worked a lot with our international conference in the Great Lakes region, which has a lot of francophonies. And I can tell you the truth. When you're dealing with francophones, and then you are dealing with an Islamic group, a Muslim Islamic group in Africa, you have two issues. First of all, if your candidate does not even speak French, the French-speaking don't care about that person that much. Whatever you do, they normally vote as a bloc, but they don't necessarily like somebody who does not speak French. And particularly somebody who just speaks English, because they also don't think English is the most important language to them. That's one. And the bloc, that they also combine that with the religiosity. If there's some of them are Muslims and the Islamic group in Africa, it's a big one. Combine that with the Arabic North and so on, becomes a very big bloc. So how do we campaign among them? Whom do we send? It's very important. Whom do you send to so and so? Who do you send to so and so? So not everybody loves our president. You know, because of his decisions and some of his speeches, some of his policies. The people who would say, no, this guy is anti, Muslims or not mostly Islamic or whatever. Maybe he's pro-Israel. They will say maybe he's pro-Kagame and so on. Those dynamics, whatever you have said or spoken, including the decision by SADC, by the way. And SADC now carries away even our own neighbors, like Tanzania. So we have issues. Now, and then finally, if we lost votes of East Africa community, then we must ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong within the East Africa community? Because the members of the East Africa community, including DRC or Rwanda or whoever, Tanzania, whoever did not vote for us, and I don't know who, because it's a secret ballot.
Definitely someone did not vote.
But some did not vote for him. And so we have a region that is not yet cohesive, it's not one. There should have been a bloc already. Because other people watch you and say, if members of your bloc cannot give you all the votes, who are we in West Africa? Who are we in Northern Africa? Who are we in the SADC region to give you the votes? So we have to blame. But listen, I keep talking about this thing called the trust deficit in our leadership. And one of the 8 pillars of trust that I know is clarity, but also character, and finally something we call consistency. And if you want to restore any trust, and the people watch you are not consistent in what you are and what you are today, they will not give you the vote. They get scared. You scare the whole community. But finally, let me also put it this way. Although this was an AUC and Africa community election, there are international interferences and involvements. There are hands in there that are very powerful, that influence us as Africans, because we depend on aid. And so if we have offended one of these superpowers, whatever it is, they can interfere. In many, many ways. They can interfere with our elections. So they can decide, say, this one is dangerous, or this is useful, and this guy is maybe, who gives, and there are many, many dynamics. So we did not look at all those dynamics, or if we did, we must have been taken by surprise. Right. And I didn't want to blame anybody, because if right now is not a very good time to blame Raila Odinga, because it's a very delicate moment. And people say, let's welcome him home. Let's give him the opportunity to recuperate from this, because one has to recover. It's not a very easy thing. The amount of time and the amount of resources used to to get to this point was massive. In fact, Kenyans paid quite a bill to get to where we were. And so the loss is not just about losing the seat.
It is our loss too as Kenyans.
It's also our loss, yes.
Yes, and it's interesting that you talk about the trust deficit now crossing the borders and becoming a continental issue. Just how much do other Africans trust us? I want to welcome Senator Joe Nyoto. Senator Murang'a County. Karibu sana. We continue talking about the blame game, and we have the images of President William Ruto on the front pages today. The Standard talks about Ruto's blunders that led to the AUC loss. Same thing on the People Daily. And the dailies appear to have singled out the president as a person who is to blame for this loss. Do you agree with that headline? But even as I give you a chance to send you a message of condolences following the death of your colleague.
Thank you, Fred. And like you have finished by saying, I think I want to take this opportunity to send my deepest condolences to the family of our fallen colleague, Senator William Cheptumo of Baringo County. We empathize with them at this moment, his family, his friends, and the people of Baringo for losing their senator. Senator Cheptumo was one of the most mature politicians that we have in Kenya today. Senator Cheptumo, though coming from the Rift Valley, was never sycophantic. Senator Cheptumo was a gentleman. Senator Cheptumo was a brilliant mind, a sharp legal mind who interrogated issues in the Senate, and where he thought that anything did not agree with his thinking, Senator Cheptumo would not praise somebody who did not deserve it. And so we have lost a great leader, and I say, may his soul rest in peace. And now coming to the issue of the loss that we got on Saturday, that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga lost the election to be the AUC chair. I think I largely agree with the dailies that there were many blunders that the president committed. And I think ultimately this is what cost us. Of course, there were those factors about Francophones, that is French-speaking countries who, vote as a bloc, then Islamic countries who also vote as a bloc. But looking at the results of the first and second rounds, I think that is not what was at play. I think when after the second round, I think what came into play and what finally cost us were the blunders, especially by the president. And this is about his position on the Palestinian conflict with Israel, where he was seen to have sided with Israel. In what people agree is something we can even call it genocide that Israel is perpetrating against the people of Palestine. And I think that alone could have cost, and like my co-panelists are saying, we do not know exactly who voted where, but that might have cost us all the Muslim states vote. That alone. Looking at, again, President Ruto's intervention in the conflict between Congo and Rwanda, that again cost us with the SADC countries, because of course, that there was a letter, although it came very late, asking the members of SADC countries to vote for the Madagascar candidate. Although not all the 16 of them voted for him, even the first round, I think about 10 did. But I think that was a factor. So when ultimately it was Raila against Mohammed Yusuf, I think the SADC countries decided to vote with the Djibouti candidate because, again, of the blunders that President Ruto committed during his intervention in this conflict. And when I came in, I found Honorable Makali talking about the kind of image that we sent as Kenyans. I even saw people, I think I saw one gentleman donning the Kenyan flag, lying on the road and, lifting his legs, the way we do our politics here. Remember, Fred, the voters here were heads of state. These are not people where whom you can influence by carrying, crowds. I think almost every other member of parliament, of course, that is in the coalition, that coalition was there. And I think the president and the heads of states were not impressed by the image. I think that is something that would have cost us, Fred. And these are heads of states. These are people who consume intelligence every day. I think they also interrogated President Ruto's intentions in supporting Raila Odinga. Did he support Raila Odinga because he believed in the statesmanship and the Pan-Africanist ideologies of Raila Amolo Odinga? Or did he support Raila Amolo Odinga because he wanted Raila Amolo Odinga out of the Kenyan space so that he can continue perpetrating his dictatorship? Without question, because everybody's agreed that Raila so far is the only leader that can really put the government to task. And I believe these heads of states got to know through intelligence that President Ruto's support was not genuine. President Ruto's support was actually to serve his interests locally. And I believe the heads of states decided, we cannot allow you to use us to sort out your internal affairs in Kenya. And I think this is something that must have played, must have dealt Raila this blow. And looking at these diplomatic blunders again, going back there, and I think it is Honorable Horisho that talked about the kind of utterances that we make here and out there, looking at the local speeches that our president makes, even calling people stupid, people who never went to school, people who do not have PhDs, people who only grow mung beans and so have no standing to talk about corruption, to talk about abductions and killings. This is the same mentality that has made him, make some diplomatic blunders. Because, and I think we should advise, if he would listen, that at least let us first of all be consulting professionals. We have very many diplomats who can advise on how to go about, but the major problem with President Ruto has been, does he listen to anybody? Yes. Does he take any advice?
And listen to that, what you've just said. Could we say that probably a president talks too much? He talked about the DRC some years back as something that even offended the DRC, before even the DRC, the kind of crisis we're facing now. Immediately he took over. The very first tweet that came from his team was in recognizing Sahrawi as a republic. Of course, that put off Morocco in one way or another. He talked about Israel and sent out a statement, and many people are wondering, was it necessary to do that? Is it naivety on the part of our president in as far as diplomacy is concerned, that it seems to be all over the place?
For me, I will not say it's naivety. I think it's the belief that you know everything. And I agree with what Newton is saying. In a situation where you are head of a state and you have experts in all sectors, why would you want to be making statements related to those sectors every day, every morning, yourself? Because in case that statement is not taken kindly, then you are the person to be blamed. For example, you remember at one point, the issue of the DRC, he called the president of France.
And spoke about it.
And you saw the kind of feedback from the French-speaking African countries. Because some of those countries are saying, we are tired of France. We want to do away with France. And a number of them, you can list them. And then here you are talking to the president of France. So anybody who doesn't agree with that position becomes your enemy. And the things we are saying, so to me, I think this idea of the president talking on everything, giving statements every sector, is a disservice to his presidency. How I wish he would be able to delegate. For instance now, how many times do you see ministers communicating government policy in this country? Pogisio was a minister at one point. During their time, anything to do with information, you would see Pogisio is the man talking. So in case things get bad, the president can blame Pogisio and shield himself from. But when you become the first line of defense, you know, as a president, you have issues. So we're just saying, can our president sit down, relax, allow ministers to be the face of Kenya, so that in this case we would have seen the minister, Foreign Affairs, Mr. Mudavadi, championing all this, so that in case of only coming, now we would be blaming Mudavadi, not the chief campaigner. But you know, the chief campaigner was the president himself. So in a situation where the chief campaigner is the president himself, who else do you blame? You blame him. I can tell you for sure, maybe CS Mudavadi and the PS Foreign Affairs, a number of ambassadors didn't do their work well. But you know, they were nowhere to be seen. So the only person who would see is the president.
Too much visibility.
And where the punching, that's where the punching is going, you see. Everybody is saying he's a man to blame. The other thing which is coming around, I think is important. You know, there are lots of geopolitics in this, and some of this, I like the point which Senator Pogisio was bringing out. The issue of the what we call the big, no, they're not the big five, but you know, the class of the Americans, the Chinese, the UK, the guys who call the shots when it comes down to the global issues. You must also analyze what are they thinking about this issue. Because, you know, at one point, when Honorable Raila and Honorable Ruto themselves were competing, they must have formed their opinion in terms of where do we go. So in case they have their issues to do with Raila, they could also influence the voting because they have interests. They have their own interests, which they always champion. And I can tell you, for sure, we know it. America, when they have their interests as a country, they will push that interest to the extent you can imagine. So in a situation where they might be thinking, Raila being the chair of Africa Union might not help us much, or might have these issues to our interest, they will call the other allies all over. And you know, as Yutu was saying, most of us are relying on these external other bodies to support us, both financially, because we are getting loans from them. Others are supporting our military arrangement in terms of giving us military support. So all these things put together. That's why it's very important you analyze the candidate. And that's why you need to listen to the diplomats. And when you look at this gentleman from Djibouti, having been a diplomat for 30 years, you can also imagine the kind of networks he has built over time. So the issue of trust, which Senator Pogisio talked about, he must have built a lot of trust with his colleagues. And some of these presidents were also, to some extent, they might have interacted. You know, when you're a foreign minister, you interact with a lot of these heads of state as you do your work. So to me, these are the issues. We are just saying, our president, the way he conducted all of this, might be actually be the problem.
He's only been president for 2.5 years. Could there be a level of lack of experience in some of these things, Bwana Pogisio? Do you see that in William Ruto, especially in dealing with other entities outside of Kenya?
Well, you know. By the way, inexperience is simply something that you count in the number of years you've been president. Of course, he's been there for 2 years, and everybody who starts off, and as they say, a president or a leader is as good as his advisors, and everybody seems to be saying, listen to your advisors, or also pick better advisors for yourself. Because even as you put together a team to go and campaign on a diplomatic mission, you're wondering, who are these people? Like my colleague here is saying, the guy from Djibouti has been in the club. And the club is members of the diplomatic corps, and he's been there for such a long time. Raila is a bit outside of that club. And William Ruto as president as a politician has never had that club. And so we also have our own problems because our candidate, I never saw the president of Djibouti hold his candidate by hand and take him around you know, to meet other presidents. Because I think sometimes we make that kind of blunder where it looks like you know, is our candidate strong enough to go on his own? And I saw when they started doing that a bit late. My thinking is we must not also forget the Gen Z factor in whatever we are doing, by the way. The invisible hand of the Gen Zs, because they did not want this election to happen. You know, and you know the Gen Zs communicate with everybody. They have a way of communicating with everybody internationally about you, about everything, and they could easily influence. They could, by the way, quietly, they could influence how things are going. But you see, they did. They stopped somebody from coming. They could stop. I mean, they write to everybody, and they say that they wanted the sense that Raila comes back to defend this country, to defend the weak. And because they say, and this is their own words, that Raila sold his soul because of this seat. You know, he became a different character altogether because of this seat. So they want him back, and they want him to be able to come and defend them. So they were not praying for his success, by the way. They were praying, and the other Kenyans, of course, who were also praying. Who is going to hold William Ruto to account? Who's going to hold this government to account? And so on. So and by the way, you know, I must also congratulate my former party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, for holding the fort, because he has actually done a very good job holding the fort, staying true to the course. But everybody, even including Kalonzo, is saying we need Raila back.
But listening to you, it would appear that we've already, and now let's focus on the aftermath. Raila is back, AUC is no longer there. Because now you're saying the expectation is that Raila is going to come back and by default go back to the Raila that we knew back then. But if you look at the cartoon on the People Daily today, it has a spinning wheel and some of the choices that Raila has. Raila could just as well decide to support William Ruto going into 2027. Yet the expectation, what Apogisio is saying and what Kalonzo Musyoka is saying, what the Gen Zs are saying, is that Raila should come back. And we're already defining what he should do. Are we sure he is going to stick to that? They're talking about he could even ask the AU for nusu mkate. Okay, this is according to the cartoonist. He could quit politics. He could continue working with Ruto. He could go to Bondo. He could rebrand ODM. He has all these choices. Yet the expectation is one, that he's going to come back and will go back to what Raila Odinga was as a party leader of ODM.
I think all those things are, by the way, possible. I think that cartoon is making sense, because he could actually decide to do any of those. But knowing that Raila is not the kind of person who's going to retire from politics, I can tell you that for sure, because he has known, after leaving university, teaching and engineering, whatever it was, he has been a politician and wants to shape the politics of this country, and is a very strong leader of a particular wing of this country. Okay. Universal, nationwide, but particularly the voter from Luo Nyanza and from Western and so on will respect him and trust him very much. So he needs to come back to that position where he can actually come back and say, I am here, even if it's going to work with William Ruto, in whatever position, and I'm sure if he doesn't do the Nusumkate in Addis, he will, and he does it here. We know him by his character. That even if he's working with you, and Raila will defend the weak and will defend the oppressed. And now this is over now. If there was a little bit of, compromise here and there, I think that time is past. And I think the real, if you say, where's the real Raila? I think the real Raila is coming back. And it will be difficult for Raila to just let go of this country. It will be very, very difficult. So I don't see him giving up. The only thing I see is us going back to BBI. The thing that we had discarded called BBI, and create a position that Raila can participate in. And I see that coming. We have time to do that as well. And so let's wait and see.
Do we have time? That's the issue, because it's only 2.5 years to elections. And everyone seems to have been waiting for Raila Odinga to either come back or go to AUC and stay there. Now that he's coming back, everyone, including the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, now everyone has to change tack. Do you agree that, okay, fine, things even inside Parliament, things are going to change?
Thank you, Fred. I think there are two eventualities that are going to happen. Either Raila will break the working relationship that he has with the President Ruto, or he will decide to solidify the arrangement with President Ruto and continue working together with him. If he chooses the former, if he chooses to be Raila himself, Raila who fights for the rights of Kenyans, Raila who will not allow Kenyans' rights to be violated, Raila who fights for democracy and who has always fought for expansion of the democratic state, then I'm telling you, even the remainder of President Ruto's term will be very bumpy. Because you can imagine Raila joining hands with Rigathi Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, Matiang'i, Natembeya, all those leaders. I'm telling you, the road ahead could be very, very bumpy for President Ruto, even for the remainder of the term. Forget about even 2027 elections. The remainder of the term will be very difficult. But if Raila chooses to work with William Ruto will be very happy because, of course, it will give him comfort and he can continue being now the arrogant president that he has been, because now assured of Raila's support, he will know that his business in Parliament, government business in Parliament will always pass, and he will actually continue insulting Kenyans the way he has been doing, because now with Raila, he will think he's safe. But one thing, if that then becomes the new line for Raila to pursue, is that Raila is going to extract the last drop of blood from President Ruto. Raila will give conditions for his support, and it will not be easy. And by the way, I dare say, because there are all those rumors, and in these countries, things start as rumors. Everybody here, including my co-panelists, have heard that Raila is demanding Wetangula's position. He wants it given to Otiende Omolo. That will have, Wetangula will have to be sacrificed if Raila decides to work with Ruto. If Raila demands Wetangula's position, Ruto will have no option but give it. If Raila wants Chief Justice position, I hear they are already planning to exit Mother Koome. Raila will get it. Anything that Raila will want, he'll get even more cabinet secretaries. He'll get more PSs. It will be, Ruto will be a shell. And that one I can assure you. So either way, Fred, Ruto will not have peace. He will have to sacrifice a lot, sacrifice his friends who helped him ascend to the presidency. He'll have to sacrifice all of them. If Raila chooses the other way, Ruto will even be in more problems, and even finishing the term will not be something that you can be guaranteed.
Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti la Taifa Leo inasema ODM imesema hatutamruka Ruto. Wanamnukuu kiongozi wa sijui kama ni wengi ama wachache, Junet Mohammed, because those rumors and that kind of disquiet started last week, only days to the election, and there's already debate on which side is minority, which side is majority. These are some of the things that Senator Nyoto is suggesting. Do you agree that the workings of the National Assembly, now with the return of Raila Odinga, whichever way it goes, will set for a shift, a major shift?
I think Senator Newt has put it very well. When Raila comes back, he has only two choices: either to work with the government, that is Ruto's regime, or to join the opposition where he used to be. Now, if he chooses to join the opposition, and there's a court ruling which said is coalition is a majority. If he chooses to come back there, as Newton is saying, he can do a lot of checks and balances for the government. And I can tell you for sure, if he chooses to go back there and join now the Kalonzo, who is a different person from what Kenyans used to see, because I think Kalonzo has filled that gap very well. He's been very, very strong in that when he took over from Raila in terms of leading the minority side. If he comes and now joins Kalonzo and they put their heirs together, Ruto will have sleepless nights for the rest of the remaining 2 years. And he'll be able to go home very early in the morning. Now, if he chooses the other direction, but before I go there, let's say, if he chooses to rejoin Kalonzo, even in parliament now things will change. Because it means he can easily have his ODM members, Wiper members, and now you know UDA, with the side of former deputy president, Rigathi, you can easily actually do a lot of things. Wetangula will be going home early in the morning, if that force comes together. But if he chooses then to join Ruto and continue working, as he's working now with him, then I can tell you for sure he will become like a core principal, a core president. Because he will demand so much from Ruto that a lot of things will change. And I can tell you for sure, whatever he will be demanding, he will get it.
Including the seat of speaker.
Yeah, and don't be surprised, even including, more likely could also be demanding the big seat also.
How bad can it get, Wanapugisio? Because whichever way these two gentlemen are saying, whether he chooses to go with Ruto, or whether he chooses to stay in the opposition, things are going to change.
Well, there is also another option, the option of getting a high-level position at the AUC, and serving Africa. I mean, he's a candidate, you know, he's worked there before, and I'm sure maybe for the sake of, continental unity, the new chair might decide to appoint him to something, or ask him to help with certain things, and that may be a good place for him to cool off and do. Because coming home now, he's going to be torn. And tell you that the moment Raila comes home, even if Junet says they will never betray Ruto, the dynamics at home, the politics of Kenya today will force you to make a decision one way or another. It's not going to be just coming and sitting there doing nothing. And I tell you, we're a very active population who raise issues so fast that you may have to make a decision very fast. And then the dynamics within the East Africa community are going to also force us into making certain decisions. You know, the war in DRC, for example, pitting our own members, and we have a president who is a chairman of East Africa community. He's going to be so busy with that, and depending again on whether he's successful in bringing those countries together, in actually finishing or stopping that war, it's going to bring a test of what Kenya is. Where is our strength? And maybe Raila will come and participate in that as well. He can be given an assignment, special envoy in this country. But more importantly, we could be going, as I said, we could be going back to BBI to create the positions that we had said we would create. The position of leader majority, leader minority, and now the prime minister position, all those things we could actually go and do. But I'm sure that William Ruto will really need Raila's hand at this particular time. It is in his interest, And so I'm sure Raila demands will be taken and given. And let's see, he's a colossus in this country.
And you said William Ruto has not been very difficult at changing the workings of his administration. Last year, he changed the entire cabinet. He got people from ODM into cabinet. So definitely working hard to accommodate Raila will not be so difficult for him.
It's not. It's not going to be difficult. And he also just recently changed. I think with a meeting with Uhuru, immediately he started changing and throwing some people out and bringing others in. You know, all these things are, sometimes they look reactionary, but there is a real difficulty in running this country at this particular time, the way it is. It's a very difficult situation for anybody. And sometimes, by the way, we find ourselves in this situation because of the way we appoint our advisors, the way we make our cabinet, the way we actually help sort out our things in this country. If you become a very strong president, and by the way, if you had to listen to somebody called Mukisa Kitui, even if he's not within your circles, and the guy has an experience that he was trying to share, And his predictions actually and his explanations were very true about the dynamics of our elections. And nobody would have, so if somebody had listened to him, we would have changed the way we campaign. It is that the president needs to know the fact that you are the president doesn't mean you know everything. You know, seek advice from people, even if they're not in your corner. Sometimes the people in your corner don't actually give you the best advice because they're saying yes, yes, yes. But look for some people who are outside of your box, outside of your corner, and listen to them. There are so many experienced Kenyans who can help the president out of even the situation in Congo. The decisions you make, and I agree, and I've even said it here, the president does not have to speak every day, does not have to be the one talking every day. Let us have a situation where he can also seek the advice of or make use of his people that he has appointed. So I'm actually very optimistic that Raila coming back, we mourn that he didn't get, and we actually have a feeling that he could have met a great leader in that place. But that's not to say, he himself has said, let's stop mourning, let's come back home.
He looks ready to come back home.
Both of them have said,
yes,
yeah, I have a home to go to. And so he has
and you suggested something about the return of the BBI, and that would necessitate probably a constitutional referendum.
Oh, yeah.
This one AUC election could force us to go into a referendum if at all William Ruto tries to accommodate Raila Odinga before 2027. Do we have enough time for that, for such an exercise, Senator?
Well, before I address the issue of whether we have enough time or not, let me maybe just add a rider onto maybe what Honorable Makali and Honorable Pogisho have said. Honorable Makali has said that if Raila decides to join government, that he'll be like a co-president. I want to moderately disagree with him. Raila Odinga, if he chooses that option, will not be a co-president. He will have more power than Ruto. So Ruto will have to play second fiddle to Raila Odinga, because Raila Odinga will be giving conditions and Ruto will have to meet them or face the wrath of every other Kenyan, because Raila Odinga can be able to mobilize Kenyans against Ruto. And so I think it is not a co-presidency. It will be a weaker Ruto and a Raila who is more powerful than Ruto. And the Honorable Pogisho has said something very important, that the conditions, the prevailing conditions in this country cannot allow Raila Odinga to sit on the fence. He will have to make a decision. And by the way, I do not see Raila Odinga continuing to work with William Ruto because of the pressures that this government has exerted on Kenyans. And Raila being the liberator that he has always been, he may choose to go to with Kenyans. But now coming to your question as to whether we have enough time for a referendum, I think it depends on the priorities that the new Iebc commissioners, when they are eventually picked by the panel that has already been put in place. It will depend on the priorities that they will have, because remember, there is what we call boundaries review that is yet to be done, and it is, of course, time barred now. I think they could, and I think somebody can seek a constitutional interpretation from the Supreme Court, and that can maybe the Supreme Court can rule that we can still do the review of boundaries very fast. But BBI is something that we will have to eventually do, whether before the next elections or after the next election, and it will be good for everybody. Well, sometimes Kenyans don't get happy when people start discussing positions, which is what actually BBI was thought to have been, crafted for. But then, all politicians need to accommodate one another. I think it's important because when now we have, eventually there is a coalition, because they are becoming a very strong coalition. In that coalition, you'll find Kalonzo Musyoka, Rigathi Gachagua, Eugene Wamalwa, Matiang'i, and many other leaders who are with Ruto now, but who will decamp from him when the time comes. And I think it's important that because Kenyans again like feeling that their top men are accommodated in any arrangement. So I think BBI is not bad. And also coming from a populous region, you know, BBI had also proposed, equity in representation, not necessarily having constituencies. More constituencies. But I think it's something that needs to be addressed because, Fred, we cannot continue having regions in this country where you find a member of parliament, a member of the National Assembly representing 300,000 people and having one vote in the National Assembly while another person represents about 50,000 people and having one vote. That is a debate we may not have now, but I think this is something that we need to address.
We could just be opening a can of worms.
Yes, but this is something, that's why I say the BBI is something that the recommendations therein are things that as Kenyans we need to sit down and discuss. Not ignoring, of course, the fact that, and I happen to be a very realistic person, the fact that in some regions of this country, there could be a low population, but then the land mass is expansive. That is also something that will be considered, so that I do not look like somebody who is only talking about numbers. We will have to sit down and think about even representation or equity in the representation of our people.
The priority right now is simply for President William Ruto is to accommodate Raila Odinga somewhere comfortably enough for him to get to the end of his first 5-year term and possibly get re-elected. Now, the BBI might be too awkward an option because of the kind of worms that we've just opened now. People will start talking about 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. But there's an issue of time. Do we have time?
But by the way, there was an improvement of BBI to what they call the NADICO report, which was a joint effort between the two sides of the government. That is the minority and the majority, with the co-chairing of Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka and Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. So the recommendations of the NADICO report also actually did capture most of the highlights of BBI. And if we fast-track the report, we could achieve the same outcomes.
It would still necessitate
so I think we have time.
A referendum.
We have time because actually if this report was taken and fast-tracked, a year would be enough to achieve what we wanted to achieve through BBI. And I don't see a lot of, because what they did, they were able to isolate areas which could be done in Parliament without going for a referendum. And one of them was creating the office of even the Prime Minister in a way that you will not need to go. Although Kenyans always demand a referendum, but I think there was a way they were crafting it in a way that you will be able to accommodate even the leader of opposition and all that. So for me, I think really, as you are saying, because it seems like Raila must be accommodated, although there's the other option we're not considering, you might just come back and decide to retire and say, I'm heading to Bondo.
Do you see that happening?
And that is, I can see my colleagues are not agreeing, but Raila has been in this game for so long that anything would be possible. You can come back and say, hey, I went now to hang my boots. And hanging my boots means I go to Bondo and become now a senior advisor to the future presidents and future leaders of this country. So people will not be paying visits to him in Bondo the way they are doing now to, is it Wamunyoro or what? The way they are visiting Wamunyoro. Right. They could be visiting Bondo for counsel and advice from the wise man. So to me, I don't still want to rule out that possibility, because I think really he has gone for this thing, both local and national, for so long that even Henge, let's also not ignore that fact.
Yes. He turned 80.
Yeah, the Henge is also catching up with him. And
does that rule him out of probably running for president come 2027? Do you think at 82, 83, he'll be too old?
I'm not very sure anybody would. Okay, we have the Cameroonian president who is 90 and is still going for re-election, but I don't think really, if you love your country, I don't think that would be the right age to start going for this position. They're too demanding, too stressful. And we also have our young people who want to also. Right. I'm sure New Trier would want it to be the president. Policia would be the same. So if they put that ceiling there and we can't break it, then it makes things very difficult. But all said and done, I'm sure it will be accommodated one or the other. Now the question is, will it be accommodated by Ruto or by the other side of minority?
All right.
And for me, I would wish that he gets to the minority side so that with that team, the team Senator Newton is talking about, by 9 o'clock, 2027, August, we'll have sent Ruto home and we can reorganize our country.
Okay. As we come to the end of this discussion, of course, even as we continue looking at whether or not the Raila Odinga can still run for president come 2027, there's also the issue of IEBC, and I wanted you to make a comment on it because finally, the selection panel has received over 1,840 applicants for positions of chairman and commissioners of the IEBC. It's there on the front page of the Stand on other dailies. And we've been talking about these positions of IEBC. The chairman, we were saying that it's not a very attractive job because anyone who sits there, it's one of those jobs that after it, all the blame goes to you. But the peer Kenyans are interested. 1,848 people want to be IEBC chairman. Bwana Pugisi.
Well, you know, for a long time, it's been a very controversial position, being chairman. And the last chairman didn't even help very much because then it was much more controversial. And then there was another chairman at one time who was much more controversial, as we know. But Kenyans want to contribute to this, and there are many qualified Kenyans who want to contribute. By the way, 1,000 plus is a very small number compared to the Kenyans who are willing to do it. Meeting all the qualifications, that's how educated and prepared these Kenyans are. My problem is not even as to whether it's too big or too small. It's the process of narrowing that down to the place where we have 3 or 4 to pick from. Because politics in Kenya is played at every level. Tribalism is played at every level. Nepotism is played at every level. So that you don't, even if there were 1 million good ones, to narrow them down to the ones who are going to be elected will depend on who is in power, who wants to use that position to his own advantage, and so on. And that's the problem. When we elect chairpersons who have no neutrality, then we lose it. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter of the 1,000 plus. If the members come from their positions of wanting to do something, and this is what has actually been our problem. Even when we come to select judicial officers, we still want to make sure that they can do something for us. We put them there because of our backgrounds, our political backgrounds, our social backgrounds, instead of selecting the right people. And that's what is the undoing of Kenyans. And that's what is actually ailing even the government today. Because if William Ruto wanted to actually elect or select the best team, what I could call the dream team, his own dream team, I'm sure the people serving him right now will not be in that dream team. Okay? But because we have so many considerations which are very selfish, you'll find that there are people there who should not be there and who cannot even help. And so when we appoint somebody to head even our security sector, we go tribal. And I think that is what ails this country. And that's what's going to be our undoing, whoever becomes the president of Kenya. It's not only in this country, of course, it happens everywhere. But at least, if you look at America right now, it's the same thing happening because now Trump is saying he's going back to a place where he's only going to get people based on their merit, what he calls meritocracy. But surely meritocracy also has to do with which side of, So we have issues, and I think here in this country, and I don't have any position to advise, but right now, this thing I keep talking about, called trust, is what the president should be working on. The other day when I saw the shouting in Isiolo, and then anywhere now where people shout, arrests are made and threats are made and so on and so on, that does not help put the country together. I think he needs to have people who just say, okay, we want to listen to you. One of the advantages Raila has is he's a very good listener. Raila has made it to where he is because he listens even to the smallest voices. He listens to the Council of Elders. He listens to all these guys. And that's what the president needs to start doing. Become a good listener and listen to everybody, listen to the people who are even protesting. Those guys who are saying, wongo, okay? Those guys are saying something. They're not saying necessarily that you are a liar. It is the content of what you're saying. We can't believe it. Please create a trust. create a way of restoring trust in what you say, and a way you conduct yourself. So I'm only saying, without official title of advising, please restore trust.
Yes, I'm sure he's watching and getting a lot of advice from this panel. Senator Junior, you have 2 minutes for your final words.
Thank you. Fred, I think in conclusion, I may also want to say that the less that we see of President Ruto, I think the better for him. You know, familiarity brings contempt. I mean, when Kenyans see him on a car roof twice a week, making some pronouncements that have, you know, effects on governance, it doesn't augur very well, and that is why there are all these blunders and goofs, because I don't think he even has time to sit down in the office, listen to advisors, and what again Honorable Makali was talking about. That let him not be the champion of every other government program. You know, Higher Education Loans Board, new funding model, instead of seeing the CS and the PS higher education, it's him we are seeing. When you're talking about SHIF, he's the one promoting SHIF and not the Minister for Health. Like now this thing in Addis Ababa, we never saw much of Mudavadi and his PSs. He needs to consult more, listen more to his advisors, because at the end of the day, he's our president. Whether we support him or not, he's our president, and the decisions that he makes affect us as Kenyans. To Raila Odinga, I think I would want to say to him, of course, he may not listen to some of us who are very green in this thing, but I think he also needs to redeem himself. Because after the Gen Z protest, Gen Zs, and the Honorable Bishop mentioned something to do with that. Gen Zs think that Raila betrayed them, that he betrayed the cause, that he sold his soul to William Ruto, if only to get this position that he was not able to get on Saturday. And I think Raila Odinga, the man we know that has fought for democratic space in this country, the man we know has always fought for the rights of Kenyans, I think he needs to redeem himself and come back and fight for these rights the way he used to do, and not be somebody that has been compromised. He must also, going forward, he will be interested in other seats. According to me, he must be able to be his own man. He lost the elections in 2022 because he was seen as President Uhuru's project. He has lost AUC because he was seen as President Ruto's project. So he must be himself and do his campaigns as himself. I think that is what I would have to say.
Thank you, Senator.
I'll be vindicated maybe some years.
We only have a minute for you.
Yeah, Fred, I will be very brief because I totally agree with what my colleagues are saying, and more so the issue of Honorable Raila. You know, if he was to leave politics today, as I said, if he comes from Addis and says he has retired, he will retire at a very low level. He started very low and went very high, but the issue of the Gen Zs, that's something he needs to work on, because I think Kenyans seem to think that he had to sacrifice all what he had done for many years to get this position. And that is not auguring well with Kenyans. So that's something he needs to work on. For President Ruto, as I said earlier, he needs to step back and allow Kenyans to see other more faces of his people, the people he has appointed to positions. Let's see them coming out articulating government policies, so that in case somebody needs to go to the next level, then he is at the back and he can be the next level. Anytime we see him every day, that's why you see even the young man now when he goes, he says, Wongo. Then, that's a perception.
Yes.
And the perception is very dangerous in politics. He needs to change that perception.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Makali Mulu MP, Kitui Central, Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga, and Samuel Pugisio, Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, who also served as Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki II administration. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time at TV47. Well, the big discussion, of course, what happens next after Raila Odinga comes back to Kenya following that loss at Addis Ababa for the AUC chairman's post. Going forward, will he run for president? Will he keep supporting President William Ruto? What happens next? We'll be here to discuss all this and a lot more. Monday Blitz coming up after the break. Shutterboy and Fred Arocho will be in studio to discuss more about sports. Do stand by for that. My name is Freddie Nimuli. Good morning.